It's the Blood Red podcast, courtesy of the Liverpool Echo. I'm Guy Clarke. Welcome along. As the Reds continue their Austrian excursions, the transfer mill continues to turn. Roberto Firmino, the latest linked with an exit, and Jurgen Klopp outlining the Reds' aims for the coming campaign. To get into what we have on Monday's edition of the Blood Red podcast, we have the Chief, Ian Doyle, and with pre-season being the time to blood young talent, we have Keifer Macdonald along for the ride as well. Chaps, I trust you're both well. And well, Doyley, to be fair, we obviously were here on Friday to talk about the Reds and analyse the 5-0 win over RB Leipzig. It's been a rather quiet weekend for the Reds, but I suppose that's exactly the way Jurgen Klopp wants it to be ahead of the new season. The transfer business, by and large, looks all set and done, other than if there are key injuries or anyone to leave. And I suppose the countdown's on really now towards the back end of this week and the Community Shield and the game with Strasbourg, following on from the game with Red Bull Leipzig. Red Bull Salzburg, let me get that one right, on Wednesday.
Yeah, the Red Bull tour continues. Is youngsters on a podcast that's also code for everybody's off because it's summer? I think it probably is a little bit, isn't it, as well? Yeah. Yeah, well, we've just wasted 1 minute there. That's good going. Yeah, there's not been a lot going on, has there? But what we could do, I mean, I actually wrote just through passing when I was just writing something. It's the Premier League season starts in less than 2 weeks. Starts in 12 days. Well, 11 days for the first game, but 12 days for Liverpool's first game. So it's not that long amount of time, is it? I mean, I know it's been an early start to the season. They play five league games in August, which we mentioned on Friday, and they've done a bit of digging. Well, I say digging. I actually just read a book, and that's the first time Liverpool have done that since 1999, which some of my colleagues weren't even born then. But I can tell you that, that was the season that they signed 7 new players in the summer, and not all of them ended up going to plan. Let's put it that way. But that's a long time ago. But the point being, there's got an awful lot of football coming up, and it's almost upon us already. Liverpool have only had 3 friendlies. They've got another. Well, you could argue 3 really, and I do think that the Community Shield, if it's ever been more of a friendly than this season, I'd be very surprised. With it not being at Wembley, it being at Leicester, which of course is such an easy ground for everybody to get to. No trains direct and all this, that, and the other. And it's been a 5 o'clock kickoff. Thanks for that on a Saturday, so that's going to be good. But yeah, it is building up to that game against Fulham a week on Saturday. We've said the team are out in Austria. They're going through the training camp. Obviously, we're not there, and there's not really been much access for the media. Klopp did a couple of interviews, didn't he, over the weekend to Sky Sports, Premier League Productions, and a couple of international broadcasters. Other than that, it's been stuff that's been coming out of the official Liverpool website, and just been kind of interesting just to see what they've been up to. I mean, they did on Saturday they had a double training session. On Sunday they did the old running, which of course anyone who knows anything about pre-season and any footballers, it's the bit that they absolutely hate. Any part of training, no matter when it is, when the ball is not at the feet or on goalkeepers being struck at them, they don't tend to like it so much. But these are the times that Liverpool, traditionally under Jurgen Klopp, have got that kind of basis, because you look at one of the strengths of Liverpool is the fitness. Look at the fitness levels. I mean, having said that, even for Liverpool, they played 63 games last season. You did see towards the last couple of games, that they were getting a little bit tired, because they wouldn't have expected to play that many. It's certainly not the kind of intensity that has them still chasing Man City, getting 90 odd points and still not winning the league, and then getting to a Champions League final against Real Madrid, who, as we've seen for the last season, are the past masters of doing as little as possible to win a game. And I think possibly Liverpool, that's a trait that they might need to learn. Rafael Benitez's sides were very good at doing that, but ultimately they didn't win as much. And I just don't think Liverpool can afford to do that this season, which is why the summer's such an important time for them. You look at the interviews that's coming out of it, and Kostas Tsimikas did one today, Thiago did one yesterday. It's kind of all beating the same drum, aren't they? That this is a time for togetherness and how they foster a team spirit. I mean, that's not just for Liverpool. Manchester United, I imagine, will be in a lot better shape than they ever have been, having been away for 15, 16 days to Australia and whatever have you. I mean, Liverpool came back, was it like 9 days ago? 9 days ago from the Far East. And it seems like United have only just come back now from their tour. So it's been a long one for them. Be the same for all the other clubs. A lot of them have been to America, haven't they? And this has been the first time since 2019 that they've all been able to get out and go and do stuff. So it will be interesting to see how it affects teams at the start of the season, partly because they're playing so many games before the first international break. I think it's 8 Premier League games, isn't it? It's not till September. And that kind of disruption that every team's got used to over the last couple of years isn't happening as much this year, apart from the massive one disruption that's going to be happening in November, where it shuts down for 7 weeks because of the World Cup. So there is going to be a case of clubs are going to have to be able to hit the ground running because of these games. We've seen from every season in the past 4 or 5 years is that you've dropped some points at the beginning of the season, and that tends to be it. You've got no chance. So Liverpool can't afford to do that. They've got some big games coming up. What is it? United and Chelsea in the first couple of weeks. I'm trying to remember. Who else is there? Bournemouth and Palace. It's funny, isn't it, that they're playing United and Palace in the first couple of weeks, and th've played them both already. No, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm not sure you can take. Yeah, I'm not sure you can take anything from that, but I do think that's my one thing about when you play other Premier League teams in the summer is that you just end up playing them again, and it's like I'm not so keen on that, to be honest.
I don't like it at all. I don't like teams in the same division playing each other in pre-season. But
having said that, I believe Arsenal had a couple of very good results, haven't they? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that. We're a Liverpool podcast. And Keifer, in terms of one of the points that Doyle made there, in terms of just how many games there is in August, it does feel this season, as much as the more recent campaigns as well, a fast start is going to be really important. And actually, Liverpool do seem to have kind of cocooned themselves away in Austria. Yes, there's obviously in-house media busy doing interviews. There are some rights holders interviews that have taken place over the course of the weekend. But when you look at the other sides that will be looking to compete and challenge with Liverpool, there's a lot of visibility for them on their tours. It seems as though Manchester United have had all of kind of the major UK media outlets there in Australia with them, Chelsea and Arsenal in the US, and Manchester City also out there. Tottenham were up at Glasgow Rangers at the weekend as well. Whereas for Liverpool, it does very much seem, even if the focus needed sharpening any more off the back of just how last season finished, that they really are ready to start this campaign strong and really hungry to deliver on success this year, albeit 2 domestic cups last year. I'm sure they'll want one of the big ones.
Yeah, 100%. I think we know how much Klopp likes, taking his squad to Austria. I think this is the 3rd year I think they've gone now in a row, isn't it? And obviously, there hasn't been the pre-season tours that they've kind of had to negotiate that with, because obviously the pandemic obviously meant that no one can go anywhere. But I think the way Liverpool have done it this year is obviously that they went pretty much straight away, didn't they, to the Far East. I mean, for a lot of the international lads, they just joined up and jetted straight off to Bangkok. So that was obviously a weird experience for them, because those games, they normally do like a northern round robin, don't they? They'll play like the Tranmeres or Wigan, those kind of games, and then they'll go off on the tour. So to kind of get that out of the way and get the commercial side of it, out the way as soon as possible. And then, Klopp has that kind of 2 weeks, 10 days with his everyone out in Austria. I think that's a perfect way to do it. And I think we'll obviously see. Yes, they got the friendly on Wednesday, but I think it'll be against City as you get a proper benchmarkers to see how much the kind of preparations have kind of increased over the last 10 days. And I think on Thursday against Leipzig, that was a team that was probably resembled something that you'd see on the opening day, or at least against Man City. I think there was 1 or 2 question marks you could add. Who would take the 3rd spot in midfield? But apart from that, I think it was pretty close. Obviously, throw out Alisson in there as well if he is fit. So obviously how he played it out in the Far East with 32 players in the first friendly and another 30 in the second. You'd expect now on Wednesday it'd be streamlined again, and then on Saturday against City in the Community Shield you'd get a far greater reflection of that. But I also think as well, the last couple of seasons they've kind of all just kind of stemmed one into another, haven't they? In the sense of we had the COVID break, that was obviously a couple of months, but then the end of that season, I think the FA Cup final was the start of August that year, and then the season started early September. And last year it wasn't a great break either, obviously with the European Championships that obviously got pushed back a summer. And now this break has only been 4 or 5 weeks really since the Champions League final in Paris, and then joining up for pre-season at the start of July. So I think obviously it's not ideal. I think last season Klopp said about Salah and Mane, I think they had 6 weeks off, which was the first time since they joined the clubs that they'd had a real extended break. And obviously they kind of reaped the benefits of that, certainly in the first half of the season. But I think this break's interesting because obviously it's not, we know how fit Liverpool are. How fit Liverpool are. Obviously, Doyley's touched on it there. That they played 63 games. Obviously, that they would have needed a huge rest after that. But it's not it's not been a period where I don't think they would have lost too much rhythm. So I think the transition now going from pre-season, you'd think going into the new season it won't be too bad. And footballers now, they're not like they were in the 90s. They're not going off to, well, they might be in Manchester City, but the great amount of footballers, they aren't going off drinking and boozing all summer. So they are, they've got their own programs. They are going to be pretty fit for the start of the season. And I'm sure Liverpool will probably be that kind of the leading team with that in terms of the first couple of weeks of the season, as Doyle touched on that. I think they've got Everton as well in those kind of first couple of games. So you really can't afford to waste any time in looking to bed the new season in. You've really just got to hit the ground running. We saw last season, I think it was a third game, Liverpool dropped points to Chelsea, and people are already nitpicking and saying that could be 2 points dropped, so that could be the difference between the title in 40 weeks later, which is just absolutely wild. So it's going to be, especially with the 7-week break in November, December time, those first 18 games of the season are really going to be vital. And then obviously when the World Cup kind of does resume, after in December time, just before Christmas, it's again you're going straight into the busiest schedule of the season. It's just going to be relentless. So I think a good start and a good foundation for all teams is really going to be vital, and that's obviously what they'll be working on in Austria now. And hopefully on Saturday we'll be able to see more of that kind of finished product, and maybe what we'll get a closer look at come Fulham the following week.
Yeah, I love the Theo Squires-like contribution there from Keifer.
I was going to say 12 minutes. We're on to 12 minutes now. This is great. We're cooking on gas. Although we're obviously not using the gas because it's too expensive. I mean, it's about 20 quid just to do your soup. Anyway.
No, I meant the digging on Jack Grealish there.
Oh well,
let him know you're there.
I was quite willing to let that one slide. To be fair, quite willing to let that one slide.
Let them know you're there, and then we move. Doyle, you mentioned before the Community Shield and saying you think it will be more like a friendly than ever. I'm pretty sure you're saying it's going to be the first time since 2019 that Liverpool take on Manchester City in the Community Shield. That one felt really key even then, off the back of City's unprecedented domestic treble, Liverpool winning the Champions League, and obviously how the previous season had finished in the Premier League. Do you not see in the way in which Jurgen Klopp obviously looks to exact kind of marginal gains or psychological advantages in any which way he can, that actually Liverpool really are going to be looking to start this season, even the Community Shield, as fast as possible as they can? You mentioned that international break. You mentioned the break before the World Cup. Surely Liverpool are really, this is what the whole camp in Austria is all about, is fine-tuning that focus to be ready to go even this weekend, following on then into the Fulham game.
Look, if they lose 4-0 to Man City or beat Man City 4-0, we'd all be like, oh my God, etc., etc., etc. But the reality is Liverpool are playing 2 games at the weekend. One of them's at Leicester, one of them's at Anfield. I mean, which one is more important, would you say? Was it more important to put on a bit of a show for the fans for the first time that they've been there? Because it'll be like a full house at Anfield. So there's no way they're going to put a reserve team out for that game. And in the same way, what's interesting is there's every chance in the past with the Community Shield, they've made loads of changes in the second half and it becomes a bit of a glorified friendly. If you've got that many players are going to be playing over 2 days, there's more chance that more players are going to play the full game or most of the full game, in both of them. If you see what I mean?
Yeah,
so
19 to each of their legs.
Yeah. They probably won't all play all the game. You know what I mean? They might decide, well, we've got a squad here. We've got a certain number of players. We can have youngsters come on and play the last 20 minutes in both games, for example. That could easily happen. I mean, just guessing here, to be honest.
But Jurgen Klopp likes the Community Shield idea and stuff, doesn't he? Obviously, Germany, it's the Super Cup. I remember in 2019 he spoke about it and said, I don't get why it's not more of a thing over here.
You're right. But I do think the fact that it's away from Wembley is going to make a big difference for me, anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it won't feel like quite the event. Having said that, I went to the Community Shield in 2020 when there was nobody there, and that was Wembley with no one in. It's quite literally the worst possible ground. It was the worst experience that I think in terms of, that's when it kind of hit home, without wishing to go back to those bad days again. It hit home like, oh no, this is going to be terrible this season. And of course it was. And Liverpool lost on pens. They lost on penalties to City in 2019. I seem to remember. That was interesting, that one, because Klopp said later on in the season, he said that after that game, even though they lost, he thought, actually, we're going to be okay this season. And that was after they'd had that, the tour of America where they lost a couple of games, drew one, and then they got tonked by Napoli up in Edinburgh. But obviously, they played City, came from behind, got the draw, lost on pens. I think it was Wijnaldum missed, was it? Seems to think it was Wijnaldum. Yeah, Wijnaldum missed the penalty. So I know what you're trying to say, Guy, but I do think, yeah, they won't want to get beat by a lot. In fact, they won't want to get beat at all. But it won't be quite the impact that it may have been in previous years, just purely because of the way that the fixtures have gone. I think Liverpool will want to put in a good performance, and they'll obviously want to win. But say they lose 1-2-0, I don't think it's going to be quite the same as if in a normal year. And I'll say exactly the same if Liverpool win 2-0. I'll say exactly the same thing. Well, I'll be right in it. Let's put it this way. So
I thought you said I'll be right, and I was like, yeah, because
I'll be writing it.
Yourself.
I'll be writing it. Yeah, I'll be writing it. Yeah, and that's not to that's not to put down the game itself. It will be important, but we've seen. I mean, how far are City down in their preparations? I saw that Hounds only played one game. They beat Bayern, didn't he? 1-0.
Yeah.
He scored, but it wasn't his first appearance. So
yeah, I think so.
He's not going to be up to speed. There'll be other players that aren't. They've lost Sterling. Has Silva gone yet? I believe he's meant to be going, isn't he? Bernardo Silva.
There's a lot of speculation. There's been a lot of speculation over a lot of their players through the course of the summer.
Zinchenko's gone, and they got a new striker who's the guy I can't remember his name.
Julian Alvarez.
Him, yeah. There's him as well. So there is a bit of an unknown. I think it's more of a case of there will be certain individual players, such as I just said, then Haaland and Alvarez, and you look at Liverpool, Nunes and Carvalho, and I think they'll want to play in the game. They'll really be keen to play in the game, and I don't know. I mean, they've got another game before then as well, haven't they? They got Salzburg finishing the Red Bull Tour on Wednesday, and I think we can't forget that game because it's only 3 days before the Man City game. So I think it could be the team that starts against City might be the team that starts against, the majority of which starts against Salzburg on Wednesday, and then gets subbed after after the first half or 60 minutes, because that'll be more of a hint. Klopp's a lot less likely to start somebody against City who's only been playing 45 minutes at a time. So I do think that we will get a bit more of a hint. I do get what you're trying to say, Guy, but I do think we can't underestimate the value of that second game against Strasbourg on Sunday, because that will be just as an important a game in terms of actually getting minutes in the legs and putting on a little bit of a show for the fans at Anfield.
Yeah, no, I do appreciate that for the home fans at Anfield. Keith, interested to know your thoughts. I just have to say myself on it. I think when we mentioned there, maybe we'll talk a bit more about the rivals and how they're getting on. But I think with City, I think their overhaul of their squad is far more difficult for them to bed in maybe than it will be for Liverpool. And I think it's maybe an opportunity even at Leicester at the King Power for Jurgen Klopp to prove maybe this is the level we're at to Man City. Can you get up to where we're at immediately? Kiefer, what's your take on it? What way are you seeing it?
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? I mean, the business City have done in terms of outgoings this season, especially the Sterling one and the Jesus one, it does seem quite odd. Obviously, Liverpool have lost, not to compare them, but obviously Liverpool lost Minamino and Origi this season, and Mane as well, which, I watched a pod the other day, and I think it might have been Doyle that actually whipped out that was 120 goals between them last season, or someone said. So, it's a lot of goals there. And with City, they've obviously lost that reliability and the versatility that you get with Sterling across the front three. And, if Bernardo Silva goes, that's another huge player, regardless of what, Liverpool fans think of him or whatever. He's a player that can, do a good job in a number of positions. So I think if you can, I understand obviously what Doyley's saying and stuff, but I think if you can land a marker kind of, the first psychological, small gain of the season on Saturday at Leicester, I think obviously it goes both ways, doesn't it? I don't think Klopp will be pinning everything that he's done on pre-season on that. So I don't think if Liverpool, do lose 3-0, I don't think Klopp's sitting there thinking, my God, I've just wasted, 3 weeks of my life, what's it come to? But I think obviously if you do win, I think it does have a psychological impact. But then obviously saying that if you go back to the 2019 one, the disappointment to kind of lose that in the circumstances, and Klopp kind of turned that into not a positive, but he kind of used it as a fuel, didn't he? I think he made all the plays and he watched City lift it and whatever. And then obviously Liverpool went on to kind of win the Premier League at a canter by what 18 points that season. So, it can work both ways in that perspective. But Yeah, it certainly is an interesting one, and I think as well with the 5 subs this year, you know you're going to have a greater squad of players, so you're going to have more players who need more minutes in their legs because obviously the chances of them playing and featuring is obviously greater than it was in previous years. So that friendly on Sunday obviously is important. So is the one on Wednesday, and obviously kind of makes sense as to why Klopp's used so many players so far in pre-season because you can't just have for 13, 14, 15, 16 players who are kind of ready to play. You need to kind of up that to 20 now, because there's every chance Liverpool could play another 60 games this season. Throw the World Cup on top of that, and some of the top nations that will be featuring at that, and obviously the likes of Brazil and some of the lads from Liverpool, the Netherlands, they'll want to go deep into the competition. They could end up playing 70 games this season, which is just absolutely crazy. Especially off the back of the last few years. So yeah, it will be interesting, and like with City, I'm not sure when they come back. Have they got another friendly? I imagine they've got another friendly over in America. But by the time they come back and obviously deal with kind of the jet lag and everything, they'll be jumping into the game on Saturday. So I don't think they'll be pinning too much on it as well. It feels obviously like I said, it feels like Liverpool kind of got everything spot on with the way they did the kind of commercial aspects of the tour first, and then obviously went to kind of the European leg. Obviously, I think it gives the distractions kind of everything you kind of get with that are all out the way, and then obviously Klopp's got the time to kind of deal with everything in house and kind of keep a lid on it all, and then kind of not show the finished product, but what will be close to a finished product at the weekend. And I think maybe City obviously probably won't have that. It might take them a bit longer. I'm not sure. It just feels like going straight from the US straight into the Community Shield could be quite a hard and a tough transition, but I certainly don't think, as Doyle said, I think if one team wins 4-0, the other, or whichever way it swings, I don't think anyone's going to be, writing up their final tables for the end of the season. I think there's still so much that can happen, and the World Cup as well, that's going to have a huge impact. So yeah, certainly an interesting one. But yeah, I am looking forward to Saturday, and hopefully Liverpool can win the glorified friendly.
Yeah, I look forward to this season Ian Doyle hot takes of just what's going to happen pre-games, if that is then the way they do play.
Hey, excuse me, I was very good towards the end of last season. My predictions, were a lot of them were right in those last 6 or 7 games, which of course you won't remember.
No
Remember, because you only ever remember the wrong ones. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, no recollection. I don't think that happened. I think
I think you'll find that it does. Fortunately, we have this archive of all the pods, so if anybody wants to listen back and check them, by all means, waste your life doing that.
And that's why he's the chief. Anyway, Doyley, you mentioned before the interviews Jurgen Klopp has given to rights holders over the course of the weekend, and within that he was asked obviously his expectations for the season, and knows full well that Manchester City are going to be there. He also referenced the fact that City have sold some players to rivals. Sterling's gone to Chelsea, Jesus and Zinchenko have gone to Arsenal, albeit they probably won't compete. Do you think there are anyone else from kind of the rest of the top 6 pack who realistically this year can look to bridge the gap, or do you just see it as a straight shootout between City and Liverpool?
Well, the big man Tom Cavilla, our chum and colleague, he wrote something the other day where he said that City have kind of made life a little bit harder for Liverpool by selling, Sterling to Chelsea and Zinchenko to Arsenal, which kind of works both ways in my mind. I mean, he's correct in that, but then surely they'll be trying really hard to beat City as well. So it's one or the other. It will make it more difficult because it's kind of spreading that kind of talent around, which is good in a way, I suppose. I mean, looking at it from a completely non-Liverpool point of view, the best thing you could possibly have is a very competitive league. Klopp made the point, didn't he? He said that if it wasn't for Liverpool winning it a couple of years ago, City would have won it 5 years in a row, and that's, what did he say? Absolutely crazy for this country, which is obviously in reference to other leagues, shall we say, where other teams with the initials B and M tend to run away and win the league every single year. In Spain, and Atletico Madrid have made a bit of a play in the last 10 years, but it tends to be Barcelona or Real Madrid. In France, it's Paris Saint-Germain, isn't it? Before then, it was either Lyon or every now and again Marseille, in Monaco, and before that Marseille. So, and in Italy for a long time, it was Juventus. And I know we could say, look, United were the dominant force for about 15 to 20 years, but Guy will be the first person to say, well, Arsenal won it a few times in that, and Chelsea won it, and Blackburn won it once, and Leicester won it 2016. So this does happen in England, but yeah, it is a concern that okay, with it being Liverpool up near the top, it's great for us. But for everybody else, it's like if it just look, it's Liverpool and City again, you'd be like, it's getting a little bit boring now. So you do need more teams up there. I do think this season that United will be a lot better. I think United were 10 points. United really were 10 points better off than they finished last season because they just chucked it towards the end. So if you add that on, plus they're going to improve under Ten Hag, then I do think that they're going to be not challenging for the title, but they'll certainly be a lot nearer to it. And at some point, we're going to do our predictions, and I think United will finish in the top four. Tottenham will be a lot better. I think Tottenham are going to be really strong. As much as everybody knows that's going to really pain me to say that, but I do think Tottenham will be. They got a great manager in Conte, knows how to win the Premier League, and you can't underestimate that. And I think to a certain degree, he did Klopp twice last year, didn't he? So I do think that they're going to be strong. Arsenal, I think, will be better, possibly not quite enough to finish in the top four unless they.
Well, if they're better than last season, they'll finish above fifth, so they'll be in the top
four.
Oh,
no. I said they'll be better, but you look at United are going to be better. So you see what I mean?
Yeah, but better than fifth is fourth.
Yeah. Anyway, and Chelsea are an interesting one for me because I think Chelsea, for a large part of last season, I mean, the season before they overachieved. There's no way they were the best team in Europe. I think last season they overachieved to a point where suddenly I think they hit that wall where they realised how good they actually were, which was not as good as City and Liverpool, which is why they lost the two finals in the end. And I think, again, it'll be, what is it, July the 25th? So there's still another 5 weeks before the transfer window closes. And that there are those 5 games. Again, I think that's why the clubs will be desperate just to get the stuff done as soon as. I think Chelsea are playing a little bit of catch-up. United, I think, probably will think they need a couple more signings. City, I think, possibly might be done unless they get somebody else in. We know Liverpool are done unless something remarkable happens. And Tottenham just can't keep on signing players all summer, so I suspect they might be done as well. So I think they're the ones. I do think Tottenham or anyone else are the ones to challenge City and Liverpool. And as I say, I think United will be better. Chelsea, I don't know. Arsenal will be better. So they'll be the top 6. But I just think it's those 3 that are going to be challenging for the league.
Yeah, definitely. Keifer, how do you see it? And in terms of City's sales, it's not the kind of thing Doyle mentioned there, what Tom Cavilla's written on the Echo website. It's not quite something Liverpool would do, is it? Allowing a player to go to potentially strengthen a side they're either going to have to come up against. Equally, those City players who have moved on could well take points off Liverpool and other rivals too. But for instance, Gini Wijnaldum left and went abroad. Divock Origi has done likewise. Takumi Minamino as well. Sadio Mane within that too. Liverpool wouldn't sell. You wouldn't expect to a Premier League rival.
No, exactly that. I think probably the last time would have been Sterling, and obviously at the time Liverpool would have been nowhere near challenging City at 2015. So I think obviously that's probably the one you could probably draw not comparisons to, but if you're clutching at straws, you could probably say in a similar capacity. But it is weird, and obviously the deal for Sterling I think obviously was good money. I think he had a year left on his contract, didn't he? They near enough recouped everything that they got, what they spent for him 7 years ago. Obviously he's been a good servant to the club, but he will be a big miss. I mean, people can talk about maybe what he doesn't bring to the kind of his overall game when he's not scoring, but the thing is, putting the ball in the back of the net's the hardest thing to do in football, and it's the thing that most teams need. That without sounding like Michael Owen, if you don't put the ball in the back of the net, you don't win, do you? So
is putting the ball in the back of the net really the most difficult thing in football? Let's have another. What actually is the most difficult thing in football?
Scoring goals.
Yeah.
You think so? So you think it's
why they get paid the money?
Hang on. Do you think it's easier to score a goal than it is to go on a dribble past 6 or 7 players?
Context depends who's in goal, depends who you're dribbling past.
Well, if it was you or me, then yeah, maybe. But I do agree. It's a lot harder to score than it is to keep them out. Anyway, sorry, Keifer.
But yeah, just in that kind of aspect, obviously, kind of with Sterling, it feels like you've pretty much guaranteed 15 to 20 goals a season from him, especially under Guardiola. He's kind of taking his game to the next level, hasn't he, from a positional point of view. And obviously, I know he kind of struggled last season for the first part of the season, but he's still a fantastic player, still a fully fledged England international, and I think he'll bring that experience to Chelsea. I feel that maybe they've been lacking that in recent times. We've seen obviously, they won the Champions League and they won a couple of trophies off the back of that. But I think we saw it in the finals that where Liverpool have kind of got that now from being in that position. I think after Kiev where Real Madrid again, like they did in Paris, they just kind of used that winning experience. They didn't play anywhere near their best. They got over the line, and I think Liverpool have got that in abundance now. That winning mentality. But I think Chelsea maybe not lack it, but I just think at crucial moments maybe, and bringing someone like Sterling who's won however many Premier Leagues he's won is only going to improve them. But I think as well, trying to think off the top of my head who City dropped points to last year. God, why have I said this? Southampton, Brighton, Palace. Yeah,
Liverpool.
Tottenham.
Yeah, Liverpool twice, and they beat Chelsea, didn't they, home and away?
They lost to Tottenham home and away.
Yeah, so it's only you think it would benefit Liverpool as well as Doyle said. It's they're going to want to play better against City, but so it should make it like level out the league a bit more. You'd feel like. Which is obviously only going to be a good thing for Liverpool in the long run, especially, it might kind of bring that number down from, 95, 96, 97. It might bring it down to a more, normal total of, kind of top of 80, the lower 90s maybe thing, which, is still a ludicrous amount of points, but it's not kind of, lose 2 games and you're done for the season kind of thing. So hopefully from that perspective, it gives kind of a bit more margin for error. I think maybe we might see that this season, I think, because the last kind of couple of points hauls have been mental, and it's like I say, it gets to that point where you're dropping points against Chelsea at the end of August and you're thinking, how do we make that up? Or I mean, Chelsea last season, until kind of the whole Lukaku thing, I remember after the draw at Stamford Bridge, I think Liverpool and Chelsea were level on points, or there was maybe a point in it, and it felt like obviously the title was gone at the point, but you kind of see the direction both clubs went in from that moment on. Chelsea they kind of threw in the towel, it felt like, whereas Liverpool kind of kept chipping away at that lead, and they nearly won the league and obviously came so close, took it to the final day. So I think if Chelsea can maybe do that over a sustained period of time, kind of like they did in the first half of last season, and they won't kind of have that. I think last year was a transitional phase for them, wasn't it? Bringing in Lukaku, and obviously it clearly wasn't a Tuchel signing or someone that he didn't want at the club, and kind of that felt like it really that was like a key point in their season. It felt like it kind of unravelled. So I'd expect Chelsea to be up there. Tottenham have obviously done good business, but it's hard to, when you sign that many players in one window, it's hard to see how they'll gel. Same can, maybe said about Arsenal. If you get to that point where you've lost one or two games so early on in the season, do you kind of stick with what you know, or do you kind of give them the luxury of bedding in? I mean, if there's 5 games in August, there's going to be no time to bed in and kind of, what you'd have in a normal season. So it will be difficult for them. I think United are still a fair bit off it. I understand obviously what Doyle said about the 10-point kind of total that you'd add on to their points from last season, but I still feel they're a midfielder short, probably another centre half as well. I don't know. I think they'll probably get 4th, and probably not because I think they're improving, probably just because I think they were. I think they didn't kind of reflect their true qualities last season. Like Doyle said, they kind of threw it away. So I'd probably go Tottenham 3rd, United 4th, Chelsea 5th. I think, unless there's any drastic business. But I'm sure they'll all be wrong come the end of May.
Yeah, we'll get our predictions next week and go through it and see what is going to happen for the course of the season. But scandalous, neither have put Arsenal in the top 4. But we'll move on from there. Doyle, I was having to think.
Scandalous? I know I said something nice about them before. Then you were having a go at me.
I mean, kindness.
I mean, they finished 11 points ahead of Manchester United. So even if you use doily logic and give United 10 points for some ludicrous reason, they're still finished behind Arsenal.
Come on, we've all watched.
I agree. As much as it pains me to say, I think Spurs will be the 3rd team. I think it's a straight battle between Arsenal, Chelsea, and Manchester United.
I think Spurs will be miles up City and Liverpool, though. I still think there'll be a massive gap.
I think there'll be a comfortable gap.
Next week's pod. Let's just.
No, I'm not going to. I'm just whetting the appetite, and then I think that I'm just a little preview for it. Also, I was thinking, I think either a Rabona kick or a rainbow flick are probably the hardest things in football.
Overhead kick for me. It's a proper. I don't mean like a bicycle kick. I mean a proper.
No, you mean like a proper overhead bicycle kick.
Yeah.
Where Yeah, okay. Maybe
you get up there and it's like, great, I'm up here, and then it's like, oh no, I've got to
if you're
get
doing
down
a
now.
bicycle kick, if you're doing a bicycle kick for an attempt on goal to score,
Yeah.
that is the hardest thing to do in football.
I'd go, yeah. That's why I always think goals like that are always
Goal of the
when you
season.
do the goal, when you go the goal of the year, and
Yeah.
if someone's in the season score like an overhead kick from like the edge of the area, it's like, well, that's clearly got to be goal of the season. I don't care what anyone else does.
Although I was impressed when Luis Suarez scored a header from the edge of the box against Norwich, which with West Brom or Norwich.
I think it was West Brom was the header.
I think it was West
I
Brom.
mean,
yeah.
to be fair,
Norwich
about
used to
1,000 goals
score
against Norwich,
and and I mean he hit a few volleys against them, which were very very good. But anyway, before we go, final point before we do digress too much, let's talk about transfers. And the one I want to discuss, Doyle, is Roberto Firmino. He's been linked with Juventus. I mean, it's foreign media reporting on it, so not really something we're probably reading too much into. But I mean, the sums that are being spoken about around sort of £20 million for Roberto Firmino, to me, it kind of falls into that sort of Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain type position that we've spoken about on the pod before. That he's got a year left on his contract, whether or not it looks as though he's in a position whether he's going to extend or not. Is £20 million even enough, really, to replace just what Roberto Firmino does bring to Liverpool and kind of the gap he would leave if he were to move on?
Well, it's not happening unless he says that he wants to go, and he's already said that he wants to stay. So that's that.
Brilliant. Keifer, I can't get some sense from you on this, and actually some analysis.
Hang on a minute. How is that not sense? We've done this. We've done this. We know that he doesn't want to leave. We know that. Why would Liverpool sell him? Because they just have to go and find another striker straight away. So it's probably Juventus could offer 30 million. Liverpool would still say no, and Juventus wouldn't offer 30 million because he's a player who's out of contract at the end of the season. So, it's one of those, isn't it?
Equally, he's over 30, a year left on his contract. Juventus love a free agent, don't they? So it doesn't, to me, doesn't even make sense for them to offer £20 million. But Keifer, in terms of what if he were to leave, obviously that would be Luis Diaz is still bedding into Liverpool, the systems and the structures. Darwin Núñez as well. Diogo Jota's injured at the moment and has had a few injuries during his time at Liverpool, which I suppose the original front three, as you describe them, never really seemed to get beset by too many injuries, bar Firmino last season. It would leave a huge gap, wouldn't it, in that Liverpool attack that would need filling.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's not only what obviously whilst Darwin Núñez settles in, it's good to have kind of that option of someone, we know for big games that Klopp obviously likes to go with kind of his tried and trusted, what was formerly the front three, but, his trusted members of the squad. And I think obviously whilst Darwin Núñez, settles in, however long that takes, there's going to be plenty of games, there's plenty of substitutions, for Klopp to use. I think it's as Dolly said, it's literally a no-brainer to even entertain, any kind of offer that would come his way. But I think as well, like it kind of the versatility it gives you, there's been talk of moving to a 4-2-3-1 this season. And, obviously I know that Carvalho, is probably more suited to, playing in a 10 than he kind of is playing deeper. But, to have someone like Firmino who can kind of double up in, as two members of the squad kind of thing, and kind of how useful that is. We know that Klopp loves versatility and it just doesn't make any sense really. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he does extend again next summer. I mean, what's he got to kind of lose at this stage of his career? He's 30 now, isn't he? So, is he going to accept a bit part role where he can pick up, a few trophies? Obviously, his family are settled. I think he's got 2 daughters, isn't he? So it wouldn't really make much sense for him to kind of not throw that away. But certainly with a year left on his contract in a World Cup year as well, settling into a new league, I think that certainly played a part in some transfers. And I think there's one international break before the World Cup, so if you take a couple of games to settle in, you're missing out. But regardless of any of that, I think to leave Liverpool with a year left on your contract for that little amount of money, like you say, it's similar to the Oxlade-Chamberlain one. If who can you replace with that money? It's just no one, can you? So he's more valuable to Liverpool in that sense. But as Doyle said, I certainly don't believe there's any truth in it. And as Klopp said the other day, unless someone wants to go, why, they're not going to be sold, and why would Firmino even want to be going at this stage of his career? So, yeah, I think he'll be around for the season, and hopefully have another good season, and better than last year, and contribute to a few trophies.
Cracking analysis there from Keifer Macdonald. A Stefan Bajcetic-like pre-season run out for Keifer on today's Blood Red
I don't like the
podcast.
inference there, Guy. Don't like the
No.
inference. Don't appreciate it.
No.
I deserve better.
Oh dear. Okay, let's
Do you know what's
wrap
funny
this-
though? You know what's funny? The amount of people who listen to this podcast and leave little comments saying they don't get on. And
I do enjoy that. I do
yeah.
enjoy that.
And
We
it's true.
shouldn't ruin the thing for them. But if you want to get in touch with us, you can do bloodred@reachplc.com. Let us know what the hardest thing to do in football is, as well as your predictions ahead of the new season. We will be getting to those ahead of Liverpool taking on Fulham. Do leave us a rating or review. Be as kind or as critical as you would like to be, but 5 stars would be preferable. It does help us in the podcast rankings. But from myself, Guy Clarke, Ian Doyle, and Keifer Macdonald, thanks for your time and your company. It's bye for now.